good. I'd like to call the Tuesday, March 15, 2022 Public Safety Committee meeting to order. We'll start with a roll call, Chief.
Okay, Doug Bruner,
Here.
Randy Swingen,
Here.
Tammy Roll,
Here.
Candace Montag,
Here.
and Kevin Engline is absent.
Please join me for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 4, public comment. This is an opportunity for anybody to address the PSC on any issue. Please observe the time limit of 3 minutes while the PSC encourages input from residents. May not discuss or act on any issue that is not duly noticed on the agenda. Anybody online would like to say anything?
Nobody online. I have received no emails.
No sheets. I will close public comment. Approval of minutes from January 11, 2022 PSC meeting. Everybody received those? Any comments or questions?
I move we accept the minutes.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
A motion from Randy and a second from Tam. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say the same. The minutes pass unanimously. Report of PSC officers, chairperson. Don't have much to say. I'm looking forward to improving how we're working together. I really think, the charter is kind of a blueprint for how we work together, hold each other accountable. Just looking forward to the year and actually enjoying the warm weather today. Any other comments from PSC members? All right, reports of first responders. Cross Plains Area EMS Chief.
I received nothing from them.
Nothing from Erica. Erica's not on. So
Nothing, nobody. And I
nothing
think,
from Justin, the same.
no.
Okay.
And I will not bore you with any kind of report. My goal is that next month I will have our annual report. I think they never used to do an annual report. There wasn't ever one done. I started that last year because that's what I was used to doing in Darlington. And it's good for not only committees, but the citizens and the village board to know what we're doing, cases, kind of a little bit of highlights and those kind of things. So I introduced it last year and I'm only going to keep making it better and keep introducing other things as we move forward. However, I think it'll have to almost be in the April meeting. I was trying to push it for the March meeting, but part of the process that I definitely want to incorporate is the financial process, what we're spending, what we're actually returning, that we're not overspending our budget and that we're staying within budget lines. I think that's important because this committee has been asked to, when we were making recommendations, that we're taking finances into account. And I think it's okay to take those into account. It's not our job to do that, but we should take it into account as we're making recommendations. So knowing what the police department has been saving or what we need financially, I think is going to be important when you're making decisions. So I want to include that, but the final numbers usually on any budget, they don't come in until April, or end of March, and usually the books close in April because they get audited, and so that takes a few months. So I think from now on, you will always have the annual report in our April meeting, whenever that is. Okay, and then and the process. Well, I already had a record request for it from the media because it's something that they weren't used to getting. So right away, I got a phone call actually this morning. So what I'll do is I will present it to you so you see it, and then I will present it to the village board so they see it, and it'll just be informational. There's not really any need to accept it. I mean, it's just informational. So, okay.
And last year I thought the report was well done. I don't know how to improve things that you don't measure. And I also, it's hard for village board members to understand the spending and the needs. So
Yeah.
I think they're well done, and I think they're important.
I would also comment, I would encourage the EMS chief and fire chief. I don't expect to be at every meeting, but it is nice to get an update. And we haven't heard from EMS for a while. Just be responsible citizens, trying to make sure everything's okay. Staffing's working. It sounds like fire was doing a nice job of each lady.
Yeah, we, like I just said, as the emergency management director for the village, I'll be actually meeting with every one of those entities, including other people involved in the plan. Our emergency management plan needs some work. It's not a secret. It needs some work. I just went to a 3-day conference and learned a lot of different things, but mostly I made a lot of good connections with emergency management here in Wisconsin, or here in Madison, even though I know Charles Tubbs really well. It was nice to just spend 3 days talking to him and tossing ideas because we do have some room for improvement, a lot of room for improvement. So that is good that it's on my plate. I'm going to take it on, and my hopes is that within 6 months we'll have a really good plan in place for the village. But that's going to require fire, EMS to actively participate. So fire, Justin and I have worked very well together. I've just got to start making more of a connection with Erica and encourage her to come to these meetings, because you're not the only one I've heard that from. People want to know.
Director, then they report to.
So yeah, it's part of the problem that a lot of police chiefs that take on this role see, because everybody would report to me in an emergency. So public facilities, parks. And it's tough because it's not about being in charge. It's more about leading and letting them do their roles, but trying to identify that and not micromanage them. Because the reality is that I don't know everything about public facilities or parks, or I have to rely on them. So it's a unified command. It's all unified command structure. However, the buck's got to stop with somebody. So I think that's kind of the way it's built to be. Before it was Bill, but I think they wanted to eliminate that responsibility from the administrator position. And so they went to that other facet, which a lot of villages and towns, Troy is the emergency manager for Middleton. And so it's just building those relationships. So I just need a little time to make sure we're on the same page.
It's certainly not micromanaging, it's just to be informed.
Yeah, no. I think you're not the only one I've heard that from. People want to know, how many calls, what's going on, staffing. Yeah.
It's 2 years into COVID.
And I think it lands on our responsibility, or not us, but you guys. If there's a staffing shortage on EMS, how do we get involved, or how do you get involved to get more volunteers? Because obviously we need them to respond, and we can't, so we won't know that unless we're getting at least a little bit of report. So I will encourage them, and on my part, I will send them reminders via email, text, something like that, just letting them know, hey, don't forget the meeting, that kind of thing.
I do think on the charter end, it's important that Justin and Erica know it doesn't always have to be them who comes here.
Yeah.
I think it's a good learning tool for a lieutenant or somebody in a leadership position, or somebody even volunteer can get some exposure, see how the meetings work.
And the emergency plan is set up like that. Like for our department, it's not, I'm the lead of our department, but then I have a couple of, Kim Reddy is the lieutenant, and then Scott is the senior officer. So they're in tune with what we're all doing, because I might not be able to go to a meeting, and one of them should be able to step in and, we cross training is good in emergency management and public safety. So.
And probably the only question I have, Chief, is how's your police staffing?
So right now we're down one. We did lose Ben Miller. I've got another officer that I don't think I'm going to keep for very long. Younger officer. I can't really give you guys a name, but you guys could probably tell just by my comments. That officer gets recruited quite a bit. I've nearly lost that officer like twice, 3 times. A lot better pay. She. I knew I was gonna do that. The officer, gets recruited quite a bit. And the officer's looking at, would like to live in the Appleton area where all her friends are. And so I believe we'll end up losing that officer at some point. I said her, yeah. So our process right now, we had a process, and we narrowed that down to 4. The police commission was happy with all 4, and I'm happy with all 4. We could hire all 4 if we wanted to. The number 1 pick for the commission was unanimous, and he is great if we could ever get him, but he has 2 other job offers at the same time. So now I'm competing with other communities to try to get him here. Right now he's on vacation, so at least for now, he hasn't made a decision. He's very excited about this area. He is well versed with this area. This is exactly where he wants to be. Spends a lot of time in our trails and loves that stuff. So he's kind of excited about that. I could see him taking on leadership roles pretty quick because he's very intelligent, and catches on real fast, and he's been doing this for a little bit. The second guy that's in the running, he was picked number 2. He and 2 and 3 there was some debate, and it almost split, like a 2-3 vote. But either one of those 2 and 3 would be ideal if we couldn't get number 1. So I'm happy with where we're at. And number 4, just a new grad. So it's that.
Might be really good history too, if that would happen.
Yeah.
Somebody relocating.
Yeah. So our timeline plan is to hopefully complete the background checks by the 31st of March. And then I'll have a conditional job offer to one of them by April 1st. And then we will start psychological, medical, physical, all the other testing that you offer after the conditional job offer. Hopefully by the 20th of April, we would have all those test results back, and then we would make a final offer. Police commission would make a final offer, and the person would get going sometime early May with field training. Our field training program is a 4-phase field training program, so it'll take him a few weeks to get past that, and then should be on his way. So with the other 3, I will establish an eligibility list. So if I lose another officer, we'll already have somebody that's ready to go. So that's my hopes. So
I would imagine it's very competitive right now.
oh my God, everybody's hiring. Middleton, Mount Horeb, they pay $6 more an hour than we do. So you can't even compete. I mean, it's not even competitive. And they're not doing any more than we are. I mean, and if you think of their populations, about 7,200, we're at almost 5, and we don't have the staff, the building, everything they have, and they're paying $6 more to start an hour. It's crazy. So what I'm really hoping is that the board and that special committee actually does a really good study. And, I don't think that, they're probably have a bigger tax base and bigger everything else that helps that process. So hopefully, with this committee that's doing the wage study, they'll be able to just get us in the middle. I think that's really, I think if you get competitive and just being
cost and higher.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, training. I can't tell you how many thousands of dollars we spend on training. And then if you train someone and then they leave so quickly, you just, you gave that away. A lot of agencies are going to a bonus program. So they'll offer a $5,000 sign-on bonus if you come to their department. People think, oh my God, that's just crazy. But if you think about it, if you send someone to the academy, 720 hours at their wage, you're talking about $17,000 to $18,000 that you're paying them to go to school, and then you got to pay for the school, which is another about 7,000. So when you're all said and done, you've just spent 25,000. So why not offer someone 5,000 that has all the experience, all the training, and bring them here and say, here's 5,000. So it's just probably a little more cost effective. You know, and now people are signing contracts. So if you come here, we give you the $5,000,
Contract.
you break the contract, you gotta reimburse the money. Same thing with equipment or training. There's a, you know, a little bit of a scale, you know, if you leave in 2 years, you gotta pay so much, if you leave in, you know, that kind of thing.
What are the lengths typically of the contract?
It's all, I mean, it's about as creative as you want to get. And, you know, a lot of it is tied up in legal jargon. And you also have to take into account the union, because union employees kind of would fall into that. So I mean, there's a lot of things going on, but my biggest concern for the police department, and same thing with public facilities. So we're a really aging department. So I've got 2 guys that could retire tomorrow if they wanted to. And I've got an administrative assistant that has already said she's retiring. So those are big shoes to fill. I mean, she does a lot. So I don't even know how we would even recruit for trying to get her. I mean, she's taken on more and more responsibilities that someone new would not have the thought and know-how. And then I've got 2 officers that one's 30+ years on the job, and he still loves coming to work, but he said, you know, he just had to OC somebody, and he said he sat at the edge of his bed going, what are we doing here? You know, you get to an age where it's like, do you really want to fight with a 18, 19-year-old kid? No, you don't. You know, it's just I mean, I have a hard time getting out of bed some days, much less getting into a tussle. So I think those things are starting to weigh in on a couple of my guys. So in no time we could be replacing, you know, 90% of the staff. That's gonna be tough. Not when we're not as competitive as other people. So we'll have to see.
Very good, thank you.
Okay.
Starting with committee discussion, item number 1 is discussion and possible action regarding roles, responsibilities, mission statement of public safety committee. I sent out a draft charter, and I wanted to get your input on that. Just kind of open it up to specific questions on the draft I sent out. So it starts with the mission, goes over down into ground rules and meeting schedule, committee roles and responsibilities, committee members, roles, scope of work, and limits of authority. And what I like it to is just kind of a blueprint. There's a lot of committees in our village that don't have things like this. I think it's great as we're meeting. I think it's also good as we have a number of turnover, or we'll ask somebody else to join that they don't understand what they're working on. So I think it can be part of how we're working together. Now maybe we can use this with Erica and Justin to say, hey, you know, you don't have to be at each meeting, but you need to have a representative and a report so that you can stay an active part of this committee. Any questions or comments on the first section, which was the mission? No. Okay. Well, ground rules and meeting schedule. So we could kind of decide on the 3rd Tuesday. I think that will work well. We can get it in our schedules. I think we're going to have tougher things to talk about this year and in the future. So, you know, I'm a big believer that different opinions should be respected, and we should all have an opportunity to give those. That's part of the whole reason to have a committee, is to get resident input and opinions from the chief and the staff and how we work together. So anything stick out there that needs to be added, taken out?
Not at all. As I reviewed the entire document, it struck me as the things we've been doing in the last 2 years is just sort of putting it to paper. It's
a little bit like Chief Tony's reports too. You should document what you're doing and how you're doing it. And I think, you know, they're solid, you know, team making committee rules, to have a charter and mission, waste people's time, right? When we come to a meeting, we want to be focused on agenda items and we want to get on with our lives. So, and, you know, I'm happy with the committee makeup. I think we got a good group of people. Our leader, chief, and, you know, this should be a document, you know, that's revisited annually or quarterly, or, you know, whatever we decide, we can always update it, make a change. If we
I'd say we just review it every year.
Yeah. Right, I mean, that's good. The current public safety committee members are pretty straightforward. One of the things in roles that's a little unique is there are only 5 voting members. Erica, Justin, and Chief on our staff. So, you know, it's important that we're present and understand what we're voting on, the impact it has, and really where it goes next. So typically, when we go to Chief Tony and his team, or for sale and all. Appreciate Randy stepping up to the second chair. I think that's a good addition. Kind of the last one to step back or forward.
Just look over the table.
Right. If there's no real input or change, you know, I would recommend that we take a motion and just approve the charter and that we will revisit it annually.
I'll make the motion to accept and approve the charter with the caveat that we will review it annually unless roles and responsibilities change, and we're open to changing based on what's going on.
And what I might suggest too is that maybe we do it as part of the report. We do it every April when we review Chief's report.
Yeah, I'll put that in the motion.
Okay.
Review it annually at the April.
I'll second.
So we got a first and a second. Any further discussion on the charter and the mission? Got a motion and a second. No further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say the same. Passes unanimously. Thank you. Item number 2, discussion and possible action regarding the roles and responsibilities, including scope of involvement of the Public Safety Committee with regards to new village hall and police department. I'll just say a word or two, and then I'll let Chief say a word or two. I am excited. Okay, this is something that's going to happen. And I'm excited because it's a need. You look at the room we're sitting in. If you look at Chief Tony where he's parking his cars and where he sits each day, it's a need, and it's something that we're going to accomplish in the next 3 years. Jay wants, you know, our committee to input. I don't know what level of input that will be. I do think there will be a review of the plans. I think staff will probably give more input, but I think we're going to see things and be able to give input. I'm excited about that part of it. Right now, my understanding of kind of where they're at as a committee is kind of narrowing down the site. Yeah. That's kind of where Jay and his team are right now. And then, you know, I think we'll have an ability to get into specific design plan as we move forward. Go ahead.
If I could just ask a question, because I have a little experience with this. So I'm assuming they're going to form a space needs committee with the assessment.
But that's already, to be honest with you, this is not the first time this is.
There's some work
that's
already
already
done, which is
done.
nice. We're not starting from ground floor. So that they've had the need study, and they also have a drawing and a kind of site plan.
All that was done in like 2013 or something. Like that.
Yeah, I think it was.
I mean,
Really?
Yeah.
there was a lot of discussion during that time too about a building. You know,
It's been a need probably since they moved to this place, because it just never works to try to make something that will.
I remember when they moved to this building.
Yeah. And, you know, for those of us who have been around, you know, the old place had the library, the court, the municipal, and the police.
A lot of care.
Yeah, it was an old building, no doubt about it.
Creaky floors.
But you know, instead of doing I don't want to pick on our village, but it disappoints me that we have so many, kind of different buildings. I don't understand why a village our size needs a separate EMS and a separate fire station.
I've asked that question as I look at the.
But and nationwide, they're moving to public safety buildings where they're all housed together. Because they work together, they should train together. It just makes sense, you know?
And so I'm excited because number one, I think our needs to do this. I think it's a need.
It needed 10 years ago.
Yeah, they do. You can't go back. Obviously, taxes are tough and can't be everything to everybody. Narrow it down, but this is an important thing. I want to do it right. I want it to be something our community is proud of, and I want it to be something our community can utilize. Chief, you know.
Yeah, I think, I mean, we don't really have to look very far to know that it's pretty dated and it's rough. We've downstairs, I've updated it, doing some things, putting in new furniture where people come in and see things, but reality is that you could do all of that and it doesn't really, you're just putting paint on an old building or a new piece of furniture, but everything else looks bad. So I think it's necessary, plus just for the morale of the police to get to a department. So we didn't even have cleaning services. So now I've instituted a cleaning, so they're cleaning down there because Lisa was doing that too. And it was just a lot of that stuff, that mental wellness stuff and coming to work and to a place where you can feel proud of where you work. And it also will help with the recruitment because a nice shiny building will help with recruitment. People will, oh, cool. You can't even bring them. I mean, I didn't even bring any of the people that we didn't interview them here. And, when I got interviewed, they sent me to the bank and I'm like, okay, what's going on? You would think you'd go to the police department, right? So I drove here and I'm like, oh my God. So the back door, I replaced a lot of things. Like one of them was the back door. It just looks like it's just like, oh my, the door looked like something out of like a Detroit or something. I was like, okay, this is why. But I'm of the mindset that it doesn't matter what the building really looks like, it's the staff, and so when I did research on the staff, I'm like, look, these people I can work with and I know we can go further. And I had known that there had been a study to improve it. So I'm like, that couldn't be gone. And sooner or later, I figured with all the developments that you'd start feeling that pressure because this is where the $1 million deals are being done. It's right here with mismatched tables and stuff. And so it's hard to bring in people for businesses and things that
are
looking around here.
2015, so that was 2 years before that. Did they just?
No, that project in space was east of Bear Park. The whole project went away.
Okay.
And a lot of it had to do with money. And that's a challenge in all of our roles. And one of the input we give is as boards change and village presidents change, we've had a lot of turnover at the admin level. Things like that get lost and missed. The other thing is it's tough to make the decision to spend that amount. However, the Band-Aids and the buildings we have in place in Cross Plains is because of that, not seeing further ahead.
Well, and Cross Plains is not getting small.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And we need a place in an emergency situation that is big, is sturdy. We need a place to gather as a village. We need a place to have a meeting. I would like to have an anniversary party and an annual meeting, something like that, where village residents can come. Because the only time you engage too much as committees and when people are installed. That's really not how you get a positive vibe and how you have things happen. You get people engaged and you work together towards an accomplishment, not always waiting to react to bad things. I think this, I know that President Langfeld is committed to doing this. I know most of the board members are. I think life is a lot about timing and the time is now. And I completely agree. It's probably 10 or 15 years past time, but we can't go back and do things.
Well, it's further along than I would have guessed that there was discussion in 2013 sites.
The good thing is, if you drive past Midtown Police Department, Jay actually was in charge of that whole build out. They basically said, here's your money, do it. And so he has a lot of experience building, at least building a police department. So that's about 15,000 square feet. So that's about what he's looking for here. Of course, Midtown is staffed with a lot more officers. So you're going to cut that down for the police department. And then that's where you find the space for Village Hall, municipal court. I think one of the locations being looked at as a model would be like Middleton. So we are going to visit that because it is structurally about right, not size wise, they're a lot bigger, but structurally how it flows would be nice for elections, how things kind of flow in and out. So I mean, they're looking at that. There's also some proposals, to start talking about community centers and those kind of things. So, who knows where it will actually all go. Well, the two locations that are being looked at is Bourbon Road right next to the fire department. So in that lot, that makes sense for many reasons, but there are some negatives to that spot there. Once you build it there, there's not a whole lot of room to grow. So if you wanted to expand, it's really not expandable. Unless the business next door was, if he was to then yeah, that'd be great. It'd be really good. But, I don't know if anybody's even approached that topic. The other spot would be over there's like 14 acres, right, at Bear Park, which is directly across from the school. Now there, it's very congested, especially in the mornings and in the afternoons. Anybody who drops off kids, it is crazy there.
Right.
So to add more traffic, you almost would need outlets for traffic. Yeah, so you need that. This location is prime. Actually, it would be great if somehow this would have been the place to build. But again, you need more room. There's not enough room. I know that when UW Clinic was not, when they shut down for a little bit, there was talk about them closing that permanently. That would have been a good spot too, because now you've got an infrastructure there. But those two key spots are kind of being looked at. The village board, I think, decided that Bourbon Road would be the #1 spot. But I think board members were missing what you were missing for that meeting. So that is the first spot chosen, but there's nothing written in stone that that's going to be the location.
The one advantage to that spot is that this type of facility would add some extra parking.
Yeah,
That would be good for the downtown corridor, and that would be good for the new Lions building. So there is a big advantage there.
Lions are building.
They're doing
a gazebo.
Just a gazebo, like
Oh.
a pavilion close to the creek.
And if you're going to use, Xander Park is something that could be explored, on many levels. Trout Days is, I think the chamber's trying to breathe some life into that again, but again, it's a good spot to not only have the chamber, but have other entities get involved in events and it's just, it's an ideal spot. You could easily close that street down and have a full day festival there. Because doesn't require a lot of traffic flow through there. So, it just makes sense. And then you'd have the police department pretty close. The concern is if we were to have a major incident that would cut the city or the village in half, how do we get to the other side? But if you guys that are from here, it doesn't take very long to get around. You can make it around 5 miles and you're around. If let's say there was a derailment, for instance, something like that, you'd still be able to get around. So it's all planning stages. There is like Doug said, there is a subcommittee. So the way they're going to do it is kind of envision a cone. So you've got the village board at the very top, and then you've got this subcommittee made up of multiple people that are department heads and that will receive all the information. And then you've got the bottom tier, which is all of us, all the other committees, citizens, design, plan. And so you've got all these people that will kind of work the foundation and then kind of get it to that next tier that kind of sifts through all of that and then gets it to the village board. So when the village board sees it, it should be well thought out in that process. It shouldn't be something that they've got to do a whole lot of thinking that there's.
I do think the village board and Jay understand that
I don't think it's
it
you.
will help Chief Tony with recruitment. The staff will work more efficiently.
Which is basic public safety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm all in, and I think bigger is better, so I'm excited.
That'd be the common build for the future.
Well, and you're only gonna build it once, you know, you may someday when we're all gone, they may try, they're like, hey, it's time to build another one. But you're only gonna build it once, so you gotta plan for the future. You gotta, you know, if we're developing new areas, staff, you're gonna have staff growth. At some point, there's gonna have to be more staff. I mean, we're already, from when I took over in 2020, that 2019 year, we had 17,000 cases. Last year, we had 26, or not 17,000, sorry, 1,700. Last year, we had 2,600. So you think of in my time, it's been almost 1,000 caseload.
Demand for housing,
Yeah.
it's just gonna expand.
Yeah, it's just, we're just gonna have more and more traffic, more and more issues. The more we bring in business, the more you're gonna bring in people. It just, and it brings everything. It not only brings good, it brings all the other stuff, traffic and crashes. Just yesterday, Kim handled 2 crashes like back to back, pop, 2 of them. It's just constant.
And I mean, a couple of things, you know, I'm really hopeful for is we can have nice, long lasting materials, something we can be very, very proud of, efficient and multi-purpose. Some community areas that you can do a lot of different things. That's really what we need. It's kind of embarrassing for a village of our size to borrow the Legion or beg schools for gym or whatever. And they're harder and harder to work with right now, the school district. So I
When
think it's
we
important.
built the existing facility in Maple Bluff, that was my project. There's a lot of political, there were a lot of people that didn't, you know,
Oh, yeah.
been happy with the brick building and moved forward, and the village was very forward thinking. What happened, probably 65% of the project, the village people decided they wanted a gymnasium.
Mhm.
So they had an engineer, they came up with money, like they didn't, like people donated money to build this gymnasium. But the crew at Joe Daniels, I thought I was gonna find them hanging in the trees trying to figure out getting the architects in, but they built that gym.
But something like that would serve a multi-purpose,
That was a
because
beautiful
you know,
thing.
you have, you know, if you have a really hot day and people don't know where to go, you can have, open that up as a, you know, a cool down center, or the other way, or somebody's displaced.
Training
facilities, all kinds of.
There's
Into-
also an opportunity with something like that to bring it to. I think that can be a key piece.
It's a great big.
But you can
classroom.
add it to the Parks Department where they could run some stuff out of it. You know, in 2018, when you guys had the flood, the fire department was used as the location for people to stay. That didn't work out very well.
The
You
ones
know,
already built with the Legion too.
yeah, I mean, because they still have emergency services that they have to provide. So, I mean, you can't take up their bays, and, you know, it became an issue. And so there needs to be another spot.
Absolutely.
And I think that the citizens would get behind it, knowing that someday we may be in the need to use that spot. And you can find things to do in it, you know, you just.
Well, yeah, a simple public safety thing is the people walking, getting some exercise on the way,
Yeah.
you know, some kind of tractor or whatever.
Well, just the potential for the growth of the village, it's just not.
So, I
it's
mean,
not gonna get smaller.
Well, you look at you look at like the Viridians, there's the streets end at the corn, right? But they go that way. I mean, whoever built that knows we're going that way. I mean, they built it in such a way that at some point, even that will be developed. There's just plenty of places to develop. I think the developers are looking at, you know, how things are going. Just look at the new homes. They're going everywhere. They're going up. Every time you drive past, somebody else has bought a lot and they're building something. So I don't think that that's going to be an issue. So that's how do we serve them?
No, and I think, you know, I think we're in a good position. I'm excited about it. I don't think we need to take any action tonight. The discussion is good. I feel I'm excited about it. I'm planning to run for a second term just to help make sure that project gets through, and then somebody else can take it. Randy, no. Anything else on
No.
anything else on the village hall?
No,
All right.
we are gonna be having tours, so encourage people to come.
Oh, of this existing building
yeah,
to
we
show
are.
the deficiency.
Yeah, and the police department's gonna, so we have to be here because everything's secure from basically in front of Lisa to get back there because of the evidence room, but we're gonna show people. So my plan is to be here. Yeah, they're gonna do tours on the day of plan. When they have
Also citizens.
so
Jay's
citizens,
gonna set it up so the residents. and
so citizens can come and go through the building and, because we're gonna need community support. Because I mean, if people were divided on ATV, UTVs.
Well,
You know, this will
we
be,
should have
this will be a lot more. I mean, I think people will look at it, taxes are already high and people will look.
There are a few things coming off though. I mean, there's some tough money, there's some things that are happening that are very positive. There's some debt being retired. So, I mean, the timing is right.
Yeah.
And hopefully we get some normalcy around pricing and steel and so like that.
That would
I'm
be
just
nice.
excited we're getting a hardware store.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and it's loading up too. I've seen trucks going in and out of there.
There's some good things happening and
Yeah.
it's tough in this world with everyone's mental health suffering. And you go away from the pandemic, you imagine the done with that, you got a war. So it's, you know, it's hope is where you make it.
And I do think the new administrator, I had the opportunity to do his background, and so I spent a lot of time learning about him and even time with him. I think he'll be a good fit for the village. I think the hardest part is that everybody got used to Bill and knew what Bill was capable of, that he'll be judged by that, and they're really tough because he's a different type of person, but very prepared, very motivated, and very excited to come here. So
Does he live here?
no, he lives in Merrimack. He's the administrator there. Before that, he was in Los Angeles running a big, well, he was part of Social Security Administration. He had like 50 staff. So he's worked like big stuff.
Just like
and
Los Angeles.
he just,
Yeah.
yeah. He a very nice individual, and I think we're lucky to even get him to apply here, to be honest with you. So he's excited though.
He is considering.
Yeah.
He's got a beautiful house right on the lake. So
How far is that?
it's about,
We got a great-
it's about 40 minutes away. So, and it's a 500 person town. He lives kind of in a little bit outside of town, but it's very small. It reminds me a lot of, have you ever been there? It
No.
looks just like Door County, like one of those little towns
It
in
is
Door County.
literally
It's just like that.
intersection with some
Yeah,
houses and a area.
It just looks like one of those towns, you know,
Mhm.
in Door County, but yeah, he's excited, and I couldn't find one person to say anything negative about him.
We're excited to have him,
Yeah.
much like Chief Tony was talking about his candidates. Staff interviewed Brian, the board interviewed Brian, he was the top candidate for our village unanimous. So, you know, I think he's gonna be a good asset.
Yeah.
for our community. Okay, item number 3, discussion on possible action regarding a neighborhood watch.
Want me to-
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, we had briefly talked about neighborhood watch. We looked at maybe starting an app of some sort. Financially, that's no. Just to be clear. And then if anyone's familiar with the Nextdoor app, Nextdoor, I guess it's another social media app, but that's really what it's meant to kind of,
That's what it was meant to.
that's what it was meant to be, but of course it then turns into drama. So, and just to be blunt, but the other thing, of course, would be all the neighborhoods within Cross Plains Village, and then who would run each one. So that to me seemed a little more complicated. So talked to Chief, and we thought about maybe just a campaign, yard signs for those who want them. Obviously, you don't have to have one. And so I've spoken with Eric over at Latitude. He's willing to help. They have a design, his son Zach does design, but I really wanted to just talk about quickly, then I don't know if we need to do that here. This could be like, once I get the ball rolling, this could be something that could be done by summer. But what do we want? Is that something that's a private conversation? We send out an email. I have some ideas.
Yeah, I love the idea. I think, in line with what Doug has been saying about, maybe report suspicious activity and stuff in your neighborhood to the police, but also maybe capture good stuff happening in your neighborhood. And then we could blast it on our social media. And, I think we're gonna find that there's more positive stuff going on than obviously negative. So you could do it. I kind of just, if we're doing kind of that campaign, would be an envision of a campaign like, yes, we need your input. If you see a suspicious vehicle, please call us. Here's a sign, here's the number, that kind of thing. But then also, hey, maybe capture some stuff, send it to the chief, and he's gonna post it and do, a little story on it, put it on Facebook, those kind of things. Opportunities like that to kind of show good stuff too. I think that would kind of work, and it would build relationships in those neighborhoods. That was my thoughts after we got done thinking of, kind of brainstorming. I thought that would kind of work, I think, if we did both.
You like that better than like friendly reminder to lock your doors, or
we
lean
could,
on each other, check in with your neighbor, things like that.
Well, we could do where you could do it.
Yeah.
Definitely. Like, the 9 o'clock, that's kind of a slogan campaign that everybody uses. 9 o'clock lockdown, that kind of thing. Make sure you're checking doors. Those, we can incorporate it, report anything suspicious too, and then also capture, like almost like you wouldn't be able to put it all on that sign.
Right.
We would just have a nice campaign that sends that message out. But have a logo that would represent that somehow.
Yeah, and to me, the yard signs are a component, kind of like the market piece. Because we want the people that are coming and checking doors, and we want them to know that some people are paying attention to, right?
Yeah.
So, there's a component of that, and somehow I'd love to have Cross Plains in the name, or somewhere on the sign, but I think, we want those outside groups that are coming in and checking car doors and checking house doors to know that, hey, some people are paying attention to
The key is going to be, I don't think we can, you could probably get a hold of Jay and ask him, but is this something that has to be passed by the village board? If there's gonna, it incorporates money, so who pays for signage is public facilities, and I know Jared. So that's what I mean. So, and what does that mean? On the sign, should there be some recognition of that? Those donors, those kind of things, because they're going to cost money, and the more you get, the more people will want. And it's just a sign, so it's not like it's going to take up your whole yard or anything. So then, then how is the decision made of who donates, and are we giving everybody an opportunity to be a donor and be a sponsor of that? So I think those things need to be ironed out, just to be fair.
And I can work on that with Eric.
Yeah.
I think that component will be okay, but I will make sure that everything's confirmed.
And one I think important component would be, just in addition to kind of campaign marketing piece, is just really kind of engaging people in a positive way, because we've seen a lot of people come to meetings and talk about what other people do. We don't see a lot of people take ownership of what they do around locking their doors, turning off their lights, about reporting suspicious, and the biggest thing to me is driving safely. I have a lot of people who've complained to me that I see drive, and I'm like, are you kidding me? You see them now on their phone with this one. You know, that's one of the big things to me that I think everybody, because when you see this bad behavior of driving, not on 14 or P, when you see it on the back roads or you see it, it's your friends and neighbors. And, you know, we have new kids getting licenses, you know, I think there's a part of that driving component that would be nice to say, hey, you can foster this behavior, you can engage, we want you to operate safely too.
It's almost like a safety campaign.
Yep.
And then you could incorporate somehow capturing good deeds on there too, you know, it doesn't always have to be about, you know, the negative stuff or the stuff we want you to correct. Because you could go on and on and on. A big issue here in town is the dog feces. That's huge in town.
It's huge.
It's like, if people,
It is.
and you can do it as much as you want, follow people around. If the police are around, it's just like speeding, they don't speed. The police are around, they don't let their dogs either go, or they make sure they clean up. So it's getting people to report it so we can, because it's only a small group of people. It's not like everybody speeds. It's always probably the same people that are doing this stuff.
So for our next meeting in April,
Mhm.
would you like, so is this something that you want me to have a couple ideas so we can look at them?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
I think it'd be good to have like a short blueprint or a short.
Yeah.
And then when we present to the board, it should be like the final. I think it's kind of gotta go to the board, but I think you could check with Jay. I mean, maybe Jay would say, oh, it's just a
And I
campaign.
don't think we have to have every T crossed and I dotted.
No.
For the board to say, hey, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what we want to do is engage people in this. And we want that little campaign.
I think the only thing you'd have to iron out with them is the financial, you know, if they don't have to take care of them, they're probably not gonna care too
Right.
much, you know? So, but how do you deal with the financial part? What I'd hate to happen is, okay, so you get donors. I know you could get donors. There's people out here that would donate, but then have another business go, well, I wasn't even asked. How was that fair? You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you'd have to almost engage, maybe do it through the chamber, you know, and the chamber says, hey, this is an opportunity to become involved in public safety and they're looking for whatever. But I do think you'd have to get the blessing of the village board, at least on the concept of it, maybe not the signage, but.
Okay.
And I think, you know, just a little bit more of a blueprint next meeting is perfect.
Okay.
Yep.
We should talk about it. Then I can take it to the board.
It's probably too early, but where can we then get it out to the public? I guess I was thinking Memorial Day, but I think that's just too close of a window to have a.
I'm actually,
Maybe a possibility,
Yeah, I think it's
or
possible.
National Night Out.
National Night Out in
okay,
August.
although
National Night Out would be really good kickoff.
I'd like them. I
Although it'd
feel
be
like they
nice
should
to
be
have
out
in the
before
summer.
then,
Yeah.
because it's summer, like,
no,
you know, we're already seeing.
Maybe we
seeing some activity in
reinforce
the
it,
cold.
maybe we reinforce it at National Night Out, kick it off trout bids.
Yeah, trout days
We
would
can
be
kick,
great.
and I think you can kick off the concept without having the whole thing done. Like if Jay and the board supports it, which I think they would.
I think that if you're working that fast, so the board only meets once and they would meet April 25th. So I think you'd have to talk to somebody before that to get it on the agenda. And then we would see it here, April, whatever that is.
Mhm.
And that it's literally a week after
Yeah.
that they would then approve that concept. Because I could see them saying, well, I want to see what the sign's gonna look like,
Of
you know?
course.
And so I think if you bring some ideas, this is what we're thinking. I don't think you won't have support. We won't have support from the board. I think the board, as long as they don't have to pay for it, I think they would be like, no, go do
And I was
it.
even thinking about, police car in the parade
Mhm.
and people walking around and, if you want a sign, there's a sign.
And that's, I think that's a great idea. We could have them if we can get them in time and do all that. The Legion, obviously. We have we're there, present. Businesses along, so I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
We can get that together.
Yeah, I think it's doable. I think it's just a matter of getting the proper approvals and,
And if we have a hold up, we got a different day. The idea is solid.
yeah, I looked into apps too, because I really would love to have a police app.
I love
Oh
that.
my goodness.
It's I mean,
Yeah.
unless you know
How to do
how to do it, or you know someone who knows how to do it.
Yeah.
It's very, very, very pricey.
No, it's very, very, it's expensive to have someone create it.
Mhm.
But if you could have someone who knows how to do that, then yeah, great.
What was that dog? that
McGruff.
McGruff from
Yeah.
McGruff.
And McGruff are on a lot.
Mhm.
Awesome.
And we could do something like that too. We could, I mean, you can find those outfits, like McGruff outfit, and just get somebody to put it on and help hand out signs, and, you know, you could do it as part of the kickoff, you know. I mean, there are options.
But it would be amazing to kick it off on Memorial Day, or instead of tons.
I agree.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, well,
Biggest
that-
It's free,
exposure.
right? So, yeah.
Mhm, I agree.
And yeah, it doesn't have to be perfect to get kicked off. The
Right.
concept and, you know, the core parts of the concept, we get to understand. I can't imagine.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think to address Tammy's question, I mean, you'd get it out on social media for sure, but we have, you know, our social media, the village would get it out on social media. Lions Club, they all have, so it'd get out,
Yeah.
you know, Optimist Club, we're all connected, you know, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, that kind of stuff. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that schools would definitely promote it. And I think it would be great.
Well, then, real quick, then before we finish this, so then if I'm gonna inquire about pricing, approximate quantity, do you think should start off with?
1,000?
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of homes. I mean, but
Right.
I don't think everybody will have one, but I mean, 1,000 seems like a lot, but you know,
Okay.
but then we'd have them for a while.
And we can always get more.
And Rick saw us creative. I mean, he might, I can see him doing something cool.
I know.
He'll always
Just like,
be a
oh.
great guy. It's confusing.
Okay. All right. Okay, thank you.
My computer died, but I think future topics is next.
Yeah, future items to discuss.
I do have one that we should add. We're gonna want to give some input to the Bowie Road improvements. One of the trustees is working with village and citizens to get input. That road is going to be redone. So we'll have an opportunity to submit on the safety features.
So I'm gonna leave the neighborhood watch program. I'm just gonna keep it the same. And then how do you want me to word that?
I'd say update and committee give input on Bowie Road improvements. Basically, he's only had one listening session so far. And it may not be something we're gonna have a ton of info on the next meeting, but it'll be something to be down on our radar.
So I'll put update and committee input on Brewery Road project.
Or projects. But, yeah, chief. Anybody else have?
I'll make sure the annual report.
Yep, annual.
What's our next meeting date?
I think April
Third.
19th.
Yeah,
Is it here?
yeah, we'll just, the library still, I mean, they're not having any more leaking issues, but the system, they're testing things and just,
I'll probably plan on the next one here and then hopefully.
Okay, it is the 19th.
okay. You want to also, I mean, I don't know how their scheduling works. Do you want to check with Pam to see what we would need to do
Yes.
to,
I'll check with her.
so yeah, so it'll be April 19th at 7.
I'll see if she.
Okay. So,
Take a motion to adjourn.
Wait, what?
You're gonna motion.
Oh, I motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion to adjourn from Candace and a second from Randy. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. We're adjourned. Thank you. 60 minutes. Look at it. We're following our charter right from the start.